What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host here, Johnny, with the Retro Ground Podcast. And today in front of me, we have the man who came in with the heat, bro. You came in with some heat, man. Introduce yourself and tell us the name of your business and your name. Let everyone know.
So the name of my business is Games in Tech. My name is Teo Dawkins, but my business name, obviously, like Games in Tech. The way I came up with that is a lot of times when I game, it's my chill spot, so it's my zen. And I'm also into tech, so Games in Tech.
Oh, I like that. A little combination, huh?
Yeah. So like if you look at like my company logo, it's got the zen symbol. Yeah,
I didn't pay attention to that.
Yeah,
you already answered the first question. How did that come about? You got the game and you got the zen, both 2 in 1.
Like as that's always been kind of like my outlet. Just wanted to just chill out. Just relax. And gaming's always been my like go-to to like de-stress. Some people have all their other means of the way that they have an outlet. But gaming to me was the way I would relax.
Sounds good. And what's your favorite game of all time?
My favorite game of all time, honestly, a lot of people might be surprised by this, but my favorite game of all time is Shenmue. Shenmue. Some people say Shenmue or Shenmue, but it came out on the Dreamcast.
Huh.
And it was a game that was released, I think, in 2000. Don't quote me on that, but basically, I think it was released in 2000. But it was about a young teenage boy who was looking for the murderer of his dad.
Oh wow!
And it was a 4-disc based game. It was one of the first true open world like sandbox games. I guess it's. I can't quite put a finger on it, but basically it was one of the bigger games to come out, and it broke all kinds of records. It was like one of the most expensive games ever made at that time. When it was made. But that's my favorite game of all time. That's my favorite franchise. I take that back. It's not my favorite franchise, but it's my favorite game of all time. But I'm actually a big, huge fan of Resident Evil, and I'm a big, huge fan of the Fallout series.
Oh, okay.
So Resident Evil, Shenmue, and Resident Evil, Shenmue, and Fallout. Those are my trifecta.
Top 3.
Yeah,
that's cool, man. Is this a full-time gig for you, or is this just like a part-time?
So the way I got into this, honestly, is I've always been a collector.
Okay.
And it's getting to the point where I am busting at the seams of inventory. To the point where it's like, I used to like dabble in like eBay and things like that, but as I think I told you earlier, I have a YouTube channel, so I just naturally stumbled upon other people's YouTube channels that were resellers. And I was like, oh wow, like they really make stuff happen.
Yeah. I
was like, I could probably do that, but I don't know if I could do it on the same scale. So I started watching these people's channels.
Yeah.
And realizing that, like, man, like, it's crazy. It's like, even though I know I've collected and sold, I didn't realize like I could turn it into a business. It sounds crazy, but like basically, I never thought that that's something I would do. So essentially, that's kind of how I got into where I'm at now, which is I've signed myself up for multiple vending events, including SoCal Retro, which is coming up. But I just started vending this year.
Wow! And what was the first event?
Bits and Beers.
Bits and Beer.
That was my first ever event.
Wow!
Yeah,
man.
No, dude. Seriously, it's crazy to think that like. I mean, I've been collecting video games since I was a teenager.
Okay.
Just because I was a gamer, parents would buy games, but I never got rid of them. I would trade other friends, for games and stuff. We would trade them back and forth, but we'd always end up, with our games back. But as far as collecting, I've never really sold games. So I've had games since I was a teenager. The same games, collections I've had, I just kept. Yeah.
Wow. And how much money would you say have you invested, or is it all just a personal collection? Have you invested money?
I've invested some money actually. Since I knew that these vendor events were coming up. I've started investing some of my money. I would say anywhere between like $3,000 to $4,000. Just kind of initially starting off, I started buying games that I like knew people would want, but like now I've really like heavily started investing. I think I just bought. I posted on my Instagram the other day. I just bought a collection. I got really lucky too. I just bought this collection of games that was in an auction. They were called, they're by a company, PDP, they make like accessories and things like that. They came out with a light gun game for the PS4 and Xbox One. a lot of people don't realize that there was a light gun game on those consoles. They never came out with any of those. But basically, they had a starter kit by PDP, and it was a company called Mars. And I bought a collection of these light gun bundles.
Wow.
And the last time any of them, so I was looking for comps. You follow Facebook groups and
of course
and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I was looking for comps on this, and people are like, we've seen them for Xbox One, but we've never seen them for PS4. So I'm like, oh well, I got some crazy stuff here then if nobody sold them. So I started looking at least Xbox comps, and realized that like some of them are going for like $200 to $300.
Oh man.
And I and I
How
heavily
many of those do
invested
you
in
have?
these. I have 8 of them. I'm gonna keep one of some of them.
Yeah.
Because the accessory you can buy by itself. I've never seen the accessory sold. These are all brand new.
Wow.
They're still in the plastic.
Oh
Yeah.
man, with
So-
the wrapper.
Yeah, so I know there's some people out there that like want to complete sets, and PS4 is one of them, because obviously they don't make games for them anymore. But if you don't have this bundle, you don't have it. You know what I mean? Like you just don't have it.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize how rare they were until I started researching it. I knew they were kind of rare, but I didn't know like the extent of how rare they were. And so like now, like I'm like, wow, that was a good purchase.
Yeah.
Even though I spent like some money to get them, bought 8 of them, but I knew that I was like, man, maybe I should probably pick these up.
Yeah.
So now I've got them. Bringing those to SoCal Retro and see what I can do.
Oh, yeah, 100%. So, I mean, one of the questions you already answered, but how many events do you have under your belt? Just Bits and Beer, huh?
Just Bits and Beer. Just
wow.
one. Yeah.
What did you think about Bits and Beer?
It was a cool event.
Okay.
I like the fact that I like laugh at it now, but I think it's funny because those two things go perfectly hand in hand. Buying alcohol, getting a little tipsy, and you just spend some money. You don't know how much you're going to spend. You're feeling good. That's perfect. It's a perfect event to do it at.
Oh, that's so funny.
But I thought that was such a fun experience from my first time vending. And then of course LA Video Games put it on.
Yeah.
And I got to know like some of the owners. I think his name's Romeo.
Oh yeah.
Really nice guy.
Yeah.
And I went into a shop the week before that and told him, hey, I'm gonna vend at your event. Because they were looking for vendors, and then they said they were full. He was like, but I can put you on the backup list if you want to. So I almost wasn't going to do it. And he's like, well, I'll put you on the on the backup list just in case spots open up. I was like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
And then he hit me up on Instagram one day. Was like, would you like to do it? I was like, yeah, why not? So then that's what happened. Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, I remember one of my buddies he was like, hey, I think they keep coming back because I had a slot machine, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, he's like, I don't think you should sell them anymore. He might be tipsy, bro.
Yeah,
He's just spending his money.
Man.
That's what I laughed because when you said that, what a combination, right? I didn't think about it. I didn't put 2 and 2 together, right? But it was just so funny that you said that. Yeah, I was also on the waiting list. I kind of was like, hey, is there any more room to vend, And initially, I just wanted to promote my podcast, right?
Okay.
And then one of my good friends, he's also into marketing. He's like, you know what? I think you should just take your vending machine, bro. He's like, I feel like people, like you said, the combination.
Yeah.
I think people are gonna. And that day, I think, man, bro, I probably made like close to like $900. Bro.
Really? Nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty good though.
Yeah, so I was like, now I didn't think about that until you said it. What a perfect combination.
Yeah, man,
people are just spending,
and
it's so true. This little kid kept coming back. He's like, I want 5 more.
Yeah.
I would do. You buy 5, you get 1 free,
Nice.
and then he kept coming back. But what are some of the challenges you face as a reseller? Right?
To be honest with you, it's like gaining people's trust.
Got it.
So as when we got to know each other earlier, I was telling you, I really don't know anybody out here. And I think that's really important in the gaming community because it's about earning people's trust.
Yeah.
So, you buy some games off somebody from eBay, for instance, how quickly they can get it to you, is the item as they described, things like that, is really important. So like, being a reseller and vending at these events, people are looking at you and they're like, well, I don't know that guy. You know what I mean? Like, where is he from?
Yeah.
Are his games real? Like I have such a crazy SNES collection because I was going for a full set.
Wow.
At one point, I gave up on that.
Wow.
But yeah, I got like over like 200 something.
Did you get that question a lot? Are these real? Are these authentic?
I've never had people ask me that per se, but I've had people kind of like side eye me, like wondering like, whether or not it was real or not. Because I mean, there are people who have,
Of course.
collected
Yeah.
and got
Repros,
full sets
yeah.
and things like
Yeah.
that. But there are people out there that have repros,
Yeah.
and obviously in this industry, things like that exist. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
some people don't care. It's like they'll buy a repro and like be happy as could be. But
Yeah.
me, like, I find the joy in collecting and like searching for it and whatnot. So for me, just collecting those naturally is just, and I told you earlier, like, I've been collecting since I was 13 years old. Some of those Super Nintendo games I've had since I was a kid.
Wow. Those are your actual personal collection.
Some of them are my
yeah,
actual personal
wow.
collection, yeah. But yeah, I
Was
think,
it hard to let that stuff go? Because I know it was hard for me when I first started. I was like, man,
to be honest with you,
it's like a part of me just kind of left, you know?
yeah, I could see how you would look at it that way. But to me, like, so my son, he's getting into gaming now. He's 5 years old.
Okay.
So I bought him one of the retro SNES consoles, like the ones that are digital, that have preloaded games on there.
Yeah.
But I modded him so I can get all the games on it. So to me, it's
cool.
like at any point in time, I can play those games. But to me, the memories are attached to the games, not the physical part of it.
Got
For me, like, if I wanted
could
to
see
play, like for Super Nintendo, one of my favorite games is Super Smash TV. I love Super Smash TV. I love Super Mario World. I love games like that I remember playing as a kid with my friends, my cousins. But to me, it's the playing the game part and the memories that are attached to playing the game is what's big for me. The physical aspect of it, like, yeah, it's great, but I think more or less, the more I think about it, and this is really with anybody with a collection, right, is when you think about collecting and you think about what games sell for now versus what you bought them for, what kind of deal you got them for back then, makes you not want to sell them. I think that's really why a lot of people don't want to get rid of their games.
That makes sense.
Because, back in the day, I used to work at a game store. I used to work at EB Games before they were bought by GameStop. And we used to have people bring in their collections. This is like way before people were like really reselling. But people would bring in their collections to GameStop, and they would give them, I wouldn't say pennies on the dollar, but nothing you would really want to trade, retro games for, even back in those were retro games even back then. But like somebody traded in like Donkey Kong 1, 2, and 3 for the Super Nintendo. It was in immaculate shape. And I think at the time they were offering, like, for all three of those games, it was like $35. Oh. And I remember I was about to go on a lunch, and I told the guy, I was like, hey, man, I was like, I'm about to clock out. I was like, I'll give you more than that. So like, I worked at a GameStop, well, in EB Games at the mall.
Yeah.
And so we went and walked, and I was like, how much do you want for these? He's like, I don't know, like 30 or whatever, it's 30 per game or something like that. I forget what it was, but I was like, all right, sure. I was like, no, 30.
Complete in box?
Complete in box. They had the posters, everything with it.
Oh, man.
And he was like, yeah, he's like, I got some other stuff. Would you like that too? He's like, would you like to take a look at that? I was like, yeah. He's like, I got out my car. He's like, I just brought it here because I didn't know how much GameStop or EB Games at the time would take for it. He's like, but if you want to come up to my car and look, he's like, dude, he had N64 complete in box, Super Nintendo complete in box, Sony PlayStation, Dreamcast. Dude, he had so much stuff. And I was like, let me get your number. I was like, I'll hook you up, dude. Wow. So that's like the first time I ever actually like bought games in bulk, and like was like, yeah, I could probably play these games, but like I could probably sell them on eBay too, right? And again, like I said, this is before resellers was a thing. This is before people were putting stuff on YouTube as a thing. I'm sure there might have been the angry video game nerd, like somebody like that back in the day, but like nobody was really doing it how we're doing now. And I just remember like him having all these games that were like in crispy shape, like just like he just took the cellophane or like the shrink wrap off of it, like they were in that kind of condition. Man. And I remember one of the games he had in his collection was Project Justice for the Dreamcast, which is extremely rare. And he had Suikoden 2. And I remember Suikoden 2 at the time because I was selling stuff on eBay. They was going for like $250. He sold it to me for $50.
Oh.
I was like, yeah, I'll take it. No problem. So, but I knew what some of the prices of those games were back then. But I also wasn't trying to like screw them over.
Of course,
I wasn't trying to like bust
lowball
them down.
them or whatever.
Yeah. I just don't believe in that. And that's another. I don't know if that's another question you're asking later, but how do I feel about like people pricing games and things like that? I try to be reasonable with everybody,
Okay.
So if somebody's like, I mean, you just got to be honest with people. It's like, I know this game is worth $200 through price charting and eBay, but I'm not going to sell it to you for $100. I might meet you in the middle depending on how rare the game is, or I might meet you at the top end, because to me, I feel like, tools like price charting, for instance, I know you know about that.
Yeah.
But like tools like price charting never take into account the conditions of the game. They do sometimes, but not really, because what they do is they just
Interesting.
they're
Yeah,
just about
I
the
never
prices.
thought about that.
So like for instance, price charting says, like certain games, let's just say for instance, Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo, complete in box. I think that's selling for like in the thousands maybe. I'm not quite sure. I have to look that up, but to me, it's about the condition. So you got, loose, complete in box, sealed, and graded is how all price charting is basically kind of giving you this amalgamation or like conglomerate of prices or whatever. But basically, it never takes into account the condition. So it's like it gives you an average price. So if you go on eBay and I have like a copy of, let's say, my favorite game, Shenmue, right? Shenmue sells anywhere between like 40 to 80 bucks, depending on the condition on eBay.
Yeah.
But on price charting, it's just a flat, price of like, I think it's like between 40 and 50 bucks right now on price charting. So it's like, but you're not taking into account like how well the discs are, how well the manuals look, how well the jewel case is, like all those things matter. So that's why I feel like that's why I wanted to get into vending, is because I feel like at these events you can actually get what you think the price should be for, and you can also work with people and be generous as far as like offering like bundle deals, discounts, and things like that. I'm very reasonable. So it's like I understand that this person wanting the game is either a reseller or they could be a collector. But like it really just, to me, it's about like helping people out, if that makes sense. I just like helping people out.
That's cool.
So I think that, these events coming up, SoCal Retro, I'll be ready for people to ask me like, hey, can you give me a discount on this? But to me, it's like, if I know the condition of the game is really good, I'd be like, hey, like, this is complete in box, crispy manuals, it comes with the posters. Most posters are missing. Like, I did my due diligence on collecting, because as I've gotten to this reselling stuff, I'm kind of OCD about collections. You might be the same way, but to me, it's like, to me, complete in box isn't just the manual game. It's the manual, the game, the consumer manual, the posters, any stickers that might come with it. I try to get all of that before I consider selling it.
Wow.
So for me, all my Super Nintendo games, I'd say probably 85% of them are like fully complete.
Wow.
I think the only thing I don't have for my Super Nintendo games is like the plastic that goes around the carts. Like, that's about it.
Man. So most of these video games that obviously you said 85% of them have the stickers, the manuals, the posters,
Everything.
and all that.
Yeah.
All that good stuff.
I took time to find
look,
all those things.
wow.
Yeah. Because I feel like when people buy that stuff from me, like there are some people that have like, and I've got loose carts too. Don't get it wrong. Don't get me wrong. I've got loose carts. I've got loose manuals. I've even got boxes that have no games. I have the opposite problem. I have a lot of empty boxes with no games, and I'm trying to complete and box certain things. So, N64, Super Nintendo, I got a ton of Dreamcast jewel cases with no games. So I'm trying to complete and box those things. So to me, it's like I find fun in the hunt. Whereas some people say like, what makes you want to vend or what makes you want to collect and things like that. I have fun looking for this stuff.
That's cool.
And talking to people like, hey, do you have this manual, or hey, do you have this game? I'm really looking for it. And vice versa. If people are coming to me like, hey, do you have this manual, do you have this game, or you got a lot of stuff, just like, what do you have? Yeah. And I'm like, no, let me look. So, but yeah, I love collecting, man. It's just so much fun to me. But now that I'm like kind of really getting into like the whole business aspect of it, like watching your margins, reinvest it back into your business. Like you asked a question earlier, how much have you spent on inventory since getting into this business? Like, I've spent like $3,000 or $4,000, maybe more. If I really
overall, everything you have,
probably way more than that.
I bet.
But Yeah, so I think that it's really important, you know, to give people that are like looking for the game, especially when you come to these vendor events, to give them something good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like selling junk. I don't like selling crap to people. You know, I don't like selling reproductions. I kind of like frown upon that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, if people want to buy that stuff,
Cool.
you know, that if
Yeah.
that's their cup of tea, cool. I have no problem with
Yeah.
that. But me personally, that messes with the industry.
Of
You know,
course.
I don't like doing
100%.
that stuff.
Yeah. My next question to you would be, what's been the biggest transaction you made as like a sale?
Okay,
Like
so
one transaction.
this has nothing to do with vending. Actually,
Okay.
this is a crazy but awesome story. I got to tell you.
All right.
It's kind of sad a little bit too.
Mm-hmm.
This is a crazy story. All right, so when I was, I told you I've been gaming since I was a kid. When I was growing up, my mom and dad separated. My dad, so I actually, I told you earlier, I grew up in Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm originally from. But from the age of birth to about 5 years old, I lived in Tacoma, Washington.
Oh wow.
So living in Tacoma, Washington with my mom and dad, and once they separated, we moved to Indiana. We never went back. And so as I gotten older, and my dad is getting older in age, I was like, I got to know my dad. I got to really like make a good connection with him because one day I might not be able to.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why I'm telling the story. So
Mm.
long story short, during COVID, my dad passed away.
Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that, dude.
Yeah. So he passed. He was
To
old,
COVID?
though. He was, huh?
To COVID?
He had
Due
a
to
heart,
COVID?
no, he had a heart attack.
Oh man.
So I know it's like, but the crazy thing is he was at that age where he was old, but like he was very active. He was like always in the yard doing stuff and mowing grass up to the to that very old age. He was like he was an old guy.
Yeah.
And but I was into games even when I was a kid. So dad passes away. Me, my brother, my sister, we all go there to kind of like go through the stuff and try to figure things out. If you've ever been through that, I mean, I'm not saying you have or not, but touchy subject. But point is like you kind of go through all the stuff, paperwork, trying to find out things, and so my brother's like, we got to clean the house. We got to start going through stuff and make sure we take care of stuff. I was like, all right. So he's like, you go to that room, you go to that room, you go to that room, and I'm going through my old room that I haven't been in like over 20 something years.
Wow.
So not only am I collecting old things from when I was a child, but I'm also collecting my thoughts, my feelings, all kinds of, I'm going through a bunch of emotions. And I reach under my bed and I just start pulling stuff out. There's tons of stuff under my old bed, which is crazy because it's like I'm pulling the past out from under my bed.
Wow.
And I pull out this drawer. It was like, remember the old like wood grain drawers? These
Oh,
back in like the
yeah.
80s and 90s. Pull this drawer out and it's got all this paperwork over it, right? And I lift the paperwork up and there's a brand new, sealed, immaculate copy of Super Mario World.
Oh.
Untouched, unwrapped, or not unwrapped, but wrapped, sealed. And I was like, I can't believe this is here.
Wow.
Like, all these years, it's just been sitting under there.
Who bought that game for you?
My dad.
Your dad?
Yeah.
Wow.
I just never opened it because remember, Super Mario World came as a pack-in
Yep.
with the Super Nintendo.
Yes.
So maybe he bought it thinking like, oh, he's going to need this, not knowing that the game came with the system.
Wow.
So it's literally been sitting there under the bed
all
this time, dude.
bro.
And I looked at it and I just kind of like held it like it was like a piece of gold. Because I knew, this is before I was reselling, but I was also collecting.
Yeah.
I knew that was worth a lot of money.
Yeah,
Yeah, I knew the
bro.
value. So after we got all everything said and done, closed the door, I went home and I started doing research on sealed games because I knew what I had was pretty rare.
Wow.
And so I didn't know at the time, but I just started researching into like games being graded. Because I think it was even new back then because WADA, who grades games, they were even kind of new. Because I think another company, CGC, they're the ones that grade games. They were, grading games, but like WADA kind of came out of nowhere and like started like making headway in like the grading world, I guess. And I decided to go with them. And so I did all my research, looked at like what I had to like pay got my insurance on the game and sent it to them, and got my grade back, and I think it was a 9.0, and I got a B plus on my seal, which I was actually upset about. I contacted them. I was like, there are no tears in this seal. I was like, how are you giving this a B plus?
Wow.
And they was like, well, if you want to send the game back to us. I was like, you know what? Just forget it. I was like, I don't want to send it back to you. I've already got it. Sorry. I've already got it graded. I was like, I don't want to keep going through this because it takes a long time to get games graded.
I bet.
I actually just sent some off today. But so basically, I sent the game off, got it back, got the grade. It was a 9.0, B plus on the seal. It should have been an A. It really should have been an A. And so I was like, all right, cool. Like, I got this super awesome copy of Super Mario World. What do I do next? How do I sell this? So then I started looking
Was this still in 2019 or 2020?
This is 2020. It's during
Okay.
COVID. So I started looking into ways I could sell it, and I looked into Heritage Auctions. So Heritage Auction House, they got one of their headquarters in Beverly Hills. I used to live in Century City, by the way. But one of their headquarters is in Beverly Hills. I was like, well, they do like monthly, auctions where they sell off like games, comic books, and all that stuff. I was like, I'll just give it to them. So I consigned it to Heritage Auctions, and they had like they'll have like consignments where it's like they heavily focus on like games or heavily focus on like this show's going to be about comic books and this show's going to be about video games.
It's specific.
It's very specific, yeah. So the lady I was talking to, she was like the curator. She was like, hey, she was like, I seen that, you sent it to us. She was like, I would like to feature it in our upcoming auction. She was like, but we already have like a main headline auction. I guess it was like a sealed copy of like Moonwalker for the Genesis. And I was like, all right, that's cool, So I put it in that auction. I think it was in January 2020. You can actually look it up, which is crazy. You can look up the auction of when the item sold. So I always tell people all the time, I'm like, yeah, like I sold Super Mario World sealed in an auction. They're like, no, you didn't. I'm like, nope, I got pictures, I got video. Like, trust me, it was mine.
Oh, man.
And so anyway, long story short, put it in the auction, ended up selling for $50K.
No way, bro.
And this is in 2020. So mind you, like, even though it sold for $50K, and that's a ton of money, that game sells for like $150 and higher now.
Wow.
It really depends on the grade.
Yeah,
though.
yeah, yeah.
The grade really, really, really matters.
Wow.
So like I've seen some copies, sell for, 6 figures.
Oh, man.
I think I'm pretty sure if the last time I checked, really, really high grades of Super Mario World sell for 6 figures. I think. Don't quote me on that. Don't kill me, podcast.
No,
I'm pretty
you're
sure,
good.
but I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Wow. So you sold it for 50K.
I sold it for $50K, and I had no idea it was going to sell for that much. Had no clue.
In your mind, what were you thinking?
In my mind, I was thinking like 10,000, maybe. I didn't know it would go to 50, and when it went to
A
50,
couple $1,000s.
That's what I thought, man. Honestly,
Wow.
I thought anywhere between like 5 to 10 because of the condition. I was like, I'll be okay with that, and it just started going up and up and up, and it was going like 3,000, then it was like 5, and then went up like almost like I think it was like 8,000.
At what point did you get excited?
Once it crossed over 20, I was like, oh my God. That's like when it started to set in. Like,
Wow.
I was like, yeah, this is. I was like,
What do
wow.
they give you? Cash, check? Well,
So the way that they do it is
Yeah.
they consign it. So when you do a consignment through
Yeah.
Heritage Auctions, I don't know if anybody out there has even done that. Those listening, but basically, I'm just telling you kind of like my experience. So there's certain fees that you have to pay as a consignment. So sometimes they'll take the fees out of how much you make.
Okay.
So of that 50, I actually only ended up getting like 38 because of all the fees and everything I had to pay. You had to pay like the finder's fee, the auction fee, all these other fees. But anyway, I didn't get the full 50, but that's what it sold for. So just for anybody like considering like it's going to take a pretty penny off of the top, but you don't have to pay taxes on it.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah,
that's that's kind of one of the bright
That's the
sides
beauty
to
of it, huh?
Yeah. So
Man.
because they eat all the fees, all that stuff's ate, and then you just get a direct deposit.
Wow, dude.
Yep.
So 50,000 was the biggest sale you've
That's
made.
the biggest
so far.
sell I've ever made.
Wow, dude.
And it's just such a crazy story because like when I tell people that,
Yeah.
it's almost unbelievable.
Yeah.
And
how do you find this video game under your bed,
It's
untouched?
like, dude, they make movies about stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
they
bro.
don't. I don't know. But
No,
I'm
no,
just
but it
saying,
sounds like it's too good to be true, right? You're like,
Yeah.
bro, how is that even there, still untouched, bro?
untouched, man.
Wow,
A perfect copy of
dude.
Super Mario World. I thought it was perfect. You know, not Wada
Yeah,
might not,
yeah.
or Wada might not think that it
Yeah,
was,
bro.
but it was nice. It was immaculate.
Wow,
And
dude.
so ever since then, that kind of like got me into like the resellers high. I was like, man, like I got all these crazy games now. Like, let me look to see what I really actually have.
Yeah.
So then that's when I really started doing the research. That's when I really started following people's YouTube channels.
Yeah.
That's when I really started like getting into like Instagram and following people and things like that. And that's where I'm at today. It's like now this year, like I made it as a commitment. Like I'm really gonna like do my research, do my due diligence, and get into this like whole resellers, vendors, events, and things like that. Maybe next year I'll start traveling, but like I'm just doing California stuff right now.
Of course. Yeah, yeah. Have you ever, or has anyone ever asked you like they want to buy all your games, or have you considered selling your games? You know how people say, "Hey, I'm buying collections."
I'm buying collections, or like people who are starting stores, like
Yeah.
for instance.
Yeah.
I've thought about that, and I've reached out to some people. I'm not gonna mention any names,
Of course.
just because I like the people and I want to respect them. But I've had some people reach out to me, and I reach out to other people about buying collections, and just it's too low. You know,
Yeah.
I get you have to make your money,
Of course.
but like if you're only offering me like 60%, to me, I know the conditions of my games and I know what these games can sell for.
Yeah.
Like if I was that hard up for cash, like maybe I might do it, or maybe I might do half my collection.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's like I can't imagine myself selling to a person that resells knowing what they're going to make.
Yeah.
It's like it's hard for me because it's like I know how much work you got to put into it, and I respect that. But I know how much the games are worth, and to me, as long as I put in the work, I can make that money.
Yeah.
It just takes time,
Of course.
and patience, and like you
Yeah.
gotta like keep relisting stuff on eBay, and I haven't even signed up for an Amazon account to resell on that because I have
dude,
multiples of certain games.
Yeah, I think you'll kill it on Amazon,
Yeah.
bro. I think once you jump on Amazon, yeah, I think everyone makes most of their money on Amazon, bro.
Yeah.
I think eBay's a little saturated, but I think Amazon, I think the fees might be a little high. I don't know, but I heard that's where people.
Well, I mean,
sell.
everybody's on Amazon,
Yeah,
right?
bro.
You know, I'm not
I,
saying
I
that,
I don't think a lot of resellers are. I think everyone is on eBay.
Yeah.
I think because of the fees, I think it's $1 per item, right? Or $30 a month, regardless if you sell or not.
on Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I think it's like $30 per month, no matter how much you sell.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
they like take some off the top of the actual
Because eBay is what do they charge you until you make that
your
sale?
eBay
right?
fees, and
Yeah.
then they take some off the top there.
Yeah.
You know,
So,
I mean, you know, they got to make their money too.
of course, no, definitely.
But,
and then another question would be: is you got any? I mean, obviously, you already mentioned, like they try to give you 60%. Outside of that, what as far as lowballing, what do you think kind of bugs you? You're like, man, dude, like when a lowballer comes and offers you, or maybe they try to get like a deal. What kind of bugs you as far as like lowballers come?
To be honest with you,
Or maybe it doesn't bother you, right?
it actually doesn't bother me.
Okay.
Okay, because it's like you don't get what you don't ask, right? If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes
like,
sense.
as a reseller, like you want to make money, so you're going to ask people to kind of like offer you. I guess it would be a discount.
Yeah.
Because it's like you know how much it's worth, so really it's kind of like asking a discount.
Yeah.
Or you're saying, hey, I offer 60% of what the actual value of this is. Like, yes, you're getting money, but you're also undercutting me, and you know how much it's worth. So to me, it doesn't really actually bother me. What actually bothers me is people who are picky about buying your collections, if that makes sense. So like, if you want to buy the collection, then you got to buy the whole collection. Like, don't pick. Don't cherry pick my collection.
Gotcha.
If you want it, here, I'll give you. If you want 70% of whatever this whole collection is, sure, I'll give it to you. But I'm not selling it to you in pieces. Like, you have to buy the whole thing. But I think when if it's like somebody who's starting a business, they have like a brick and mortar store or anything like that, I'll give them a deal because I know they need that inventory.
They have to
get
pay
started.
the overhead, the lights,
Everything, man.
everything, all that.
I would actually be more prone to give someone like maybe 65, 70%, like because like I said, I keep my own stuff in very good condition. I might give them a good deal on certain things just because I know they're trying to get started.
Yeah.
But if it's just like I'm trying to make money, and like I bought the game, I know what kind of like good deal I got on it, and I sell it on like eBay or like one of these vendor events, I'll still knock some off, but I'm not gonna like, you know, if somebody's like, hey dude, can I get that for $100 and it's $200, I'm like, no, sorry, no way.
It's funny.